She looked me in the eyes, swore on our marriage, and told me I was paranoid. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in a lawyer's office with a tiny prepaid phone on the table between us. A phone she didn't even remember existed. It contained months of voice recordings, not just proof of the affair. Proof that every apology, every tear, and every promise she made to me was rehearsed while she laughed about me with the man she was sleeping with. By the time she realized what she'd forgotten, it was already too late. I'm Daniel, 35 years old, and until last year I believed I had a boring but happy marriage. My wife, Emily, and I had been together for 11 years. We owned a comfortable house, had no children yet because we wanted financial stability first, and rarely fought. Looking back now, I realize that rarely fighting wasn't because everything was perfect. It was because I trusted her completely. She never had to explain anything. Around February, little things began changing. She suddenly cared far more about her appearance. New dresses, expensive perfume. She even joined a gym despite saying for years she hated exercising. When I complimented her, she'd barely smile. "I'm just trying to feel better about myself," she'd say. It sounded reasonable. Then came the late nights. First it was team meetings, then client dinners. Eventually it became "don't wait up." I asked if work had become stressful. She sighed dramatically. "Daniel, not everything is about cheating. Some people actually work." I felt guilty for even asking, so I stopped. A month later, I noticed she'd started taking her phone everywhere. Bathroom, kitchen, even to take out the trash. One night while she showered, her phone buzzed across the bathroom counter. The screen lit up for half a second. "Can't stop thinking about last night." Before I could read anything else, Face ID locked the screen. When she came out, I simply asked, "Who texted you?" She looked at me without blinking. "My sister." I knew she was lying, but I had no proof. For weeks I lived between suspicion and denial. I searched for reasons to believe her. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe the heart emoji meant nothing. Maybe I was becoming insecure. Then one Saturday she told me she was attending a weekend work conference. Something felt wrong. Her company had never held weekend conferences before. I drove past her office anyway. The parking lot was empty. Every light inside the building was off. That was the moment my marriage ended. I just didn't know how badly. Instead of confronting her immediately, I hired a private investigator. It felt ridiculous spending thousands of dollars hoping to prove my own wife innocent. 5 days later, the investigator called. "I have everything." Photos, hotel receipts, videos. She wasn't attending conferences. She was spending weekends with her regional manager. His name was Chris, married, 2 children. I stared at the folder for almost an hour before opening it. Every page felt like another knife. I wanted to scream. Instead, I waited. When Emily returned Sunday evening, she kissed my cheek. "I missed you." I almost laughed. Instead, I asked quietly, "How was the conference?" She smiled naturally. "Long, boring," lie after lie. Finally, I placed the investigator's photos on the kitchen table. Her face lost every ounce of color for 10 seconds. Silence. Then came the tears. It didn't mean anything. It only happened once. I was confused. Every cliché poured out exactly as you'd expect. I told her I wanted a divorce. She collapsed onto the floor crying. "I'll do anything. I'll quit my job. I'll block him. I'll go to therapy." Against my better judgment, I agreed to wait, mostly because 11 years is difficult to throw away overnight. For the next month, she became the perfect wife. Cooking dinner, planning date nights, leaving love notes, even deleting social media. She seemed genuinely committed. Then one afternoon, I needed batteries for the TV remote. I searched the junk drawer in our guest room. Hidden beneath old instruction manuals sat a tiny cracked prepaid phone. I almost threw it away. Curiosity made me charge it instead. No password, no lock screen. Just hundreds of old messages. Most had already been deleted. She'd clearly tried cleaning everything. But she'd forgotten one thing, the voice recorder app. Apparently, Chris hated texting because he feared screenshots. Instead, they'd send voice recordings through the phone before deleting them, except the recordings stayed stored locally. The first recording lasted 18 seconds. Emily laughed. "Daniel actually believes I'm working late again." Chris laughed even harder. "You married the easiest man to fool." I froze, then another recording. "We'll tell him we're trying counseling. That'll buy us another month." Another. "I can't leave until he finishes paying off the kitchen renovation." Another. "If divorce happens now, I lose too much money." For nearly 3 hours, I listened to strangers wearing my wife's voices. Every recording stripped away another memory I thought we'd shared honestly. She never loved the vacations. She complained about my family. She mocked my cooking. She even joked about how trusting I was. The affair wasn't the worst part. The disrespect was. The next morning I copied every file. My lawyer nearly smiled when I handed him the phone. This changes everything. Emily had been demanding alimony despite earning nearly as much as I did. The recordings proved she'd intentionally manipulated finances while continuing the affair. During mediation, she confidently denied everything. Then my attorney placed the prepaid phone on the table. She looked confused. "What phone is that?" He pressed play. Her own laughter filled the room. Within seconds, she turned completely white. She whispered, "I forgot about that phone." Nobody answered. Her attorney buried his face in his hands. The settlement negotiations changed instantly. She abandoned nearly every financial demand. She knew fighting would only expose even more recordings in court. 3 months later, the divorce became final. Chris's wife also received every recording involving him. Apparently their marriage didn't survive either. People sometimes ask whether revenge made me feel better. It didn't. What healed me wasn't watching her lose. It was realizing I hadn't lost myself trying to keep someone who never respected me. The greatest closure wasn't hearing her apologize. It was watching her finally understand that one forgotten phone had preserved the truth she'd spent months trying to erase. Sometimes karma doesn't arrive with shouting. Sometimes it arrives with a dead battery, waiting patiently in the back of a forgotten drawer.